Your Excellency Muhammad Buhari, President and Commander-in-Chief, represented by His Excellency Timipre Silva, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources. Leadership of the National Assembly here present, honorable ministers, ministers and heads of APPO member countries and heads of delegations, captains of industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In my goodwill message to the last edition of the summit in 2021, I had traced the history of NIES to the foresight of Dr. Emmanuel Ibukachukwu, then Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, who on his return from the Offshore Technology Conference in 2016, resolved that Africa must have its own version of the OTC. I had also commended his successor, His Excellency Timipre Silva, for his decision to continue with some of the initiatives started by his predecessor, noting that one of the biggest challenges militating against Africa's development is policy discontinuity. I noted the thoroughness with which Minister Silva reviewed all programs he met on the ground, making changes where necessary and improving on them as he implemented them. Today, as we celebrate the 5th edition of NIES, permit me to once again congratulate these two gentlemen for their contribution not only to the institutionalization of this laudable project, but also for setting an example for other leaders to follow, namely to undertake an objective review of what one finds on the ground, further develop and the good ones, and discard what may not be worth the time and resources. I should also congratulate the organizers of NIES, Brevity Anderson, for the successes they have been recording under what is inarguably a very difficult operating environment. Excellencies, you would have noticed that I keep referring to today's event as NIES, not NIES, as the new official name is. The first reason is that I'm used to NIES, and it sounds great to me. But the more important reason is that as a representative of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, APPO, our continent's intergovernmental body for oil and gas, I find in the abandonment of the name petroleum for energy as capitulating to the intimidation of the anti-fossil fuel lobby, who are determined to give a dog a bad name in order to hang it. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as African countries, especially those whose economies are highly dependent on oil and gas revenues, grapple with the energy transition, analysts are beginning to see 3 approaches to how African oil and gas producing countries can address the global energy transition. The first approach is to fall for the position the anti-fossil fuel group hook, line, and sinker. Countries that adopt this approach look to the anti-fossil fuel groups of the developed countries for support to make a quick transition from fossil fuels to renewables. Carrots in the form of climate finance, transfer of technology, foreign direct investment, etc., are dangled before them. With these promises, these countries begin to churn out policies to relegate fossil fuels to the background, even when these countries have tens of billions of proven crude oil and hundreds of trillions of frozen gas reserves in their countries. They begin to want to distance themselves from fossil fuels, or at least oil in the first instance. But once a country starts distancing its economy from one of its mainstays, namely oil, it is just a matter of time before that country will be forced to also distance itself from gas. I hope very soon Mr. Kyari will not be forced to change the name of NNPC to NNEC. This approach believes that Africa's salvation lies with the developed world. It believes that Africa cannot make it without external support and guidance. The second approach are the rejectionists. This group of countries comprise those that believe that energy transition is a conspiracy devised by the developed world to stop the underdeveloped but resort-endowed countries from making the major leap into industrial development. To these countries, energy is critical to socioeconomic development, and that even if the science of climate change is established beyond any reasonable doubt, they are not ready to abandon fossil fuels until they have reached a level of socioeconomic development that will guarantee the basics of life for their population. These countries believe that Africa, that has contributed between 2 and 4% of global energy emissions, there is no justification to call on Africa to abandon its most affordable and reliable energy source for some energy that has not been tried and tested. This is more so as this school of thought believes that Africa is on the verge of an industrial breakthrough. To this group, even though Africa has not been able to master the technology of the oil and gas industry despite decades of operations, Africa can continue to produce fossil fuels without external support. To this group, energy transition is a blessing in the sense that it shall compel Africa to develop the required technology to sustain production in the industry, develop a continent-wide energy market, and also develop continental, regional, and sub-regional energy infrastructure. And the third approach, or the pragmatists, are countries that fall between the first and the second. These are a group of countries that agree that greenhouse gas emissions are harmful to the atmosphere and that every effort should be made to reduce or end it. It also believes that the developed world championing it, it is futile for any developing or poor dependent country to go against it. But they also recognize that they cannot hurriedly abandon fossil fuels. They still believe they need foreign markets for their fossil fuels, even when they know that if they aggressively pursue a policy of creating a continent-wide market from the 1.3 billion people in Africa, nearly half of whom live without electricity or any form of modern energy, the total production of oil and gas in Africa will not be enough for the African continent. Of the three approaches, the pragmatists seem to me to be on the ascendancy in Africa today. And this has been attributed to the consumption pattern of our elites. The elites want to continue to get foreign markets for their oil and gas in their raw form in order to get the foreign exchange with which to continue importing luxury goods and services. But for how long can we continue this way? Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa oil and gas producing countries cannot make much progress until we are able to undertake a critical evaluation of the dire situation we are going to face with the successful pursuit of the Paris and Glasgow agreements on climate change. In this respect, I should like to announce that a major study commissioned by the APPO Council of Ministers, some of whom are here today with us, both in person and virtual, titled The Future of the Oil and Gas Industry in Africa in the Light of Energy Transition, has been completed and was submitted to the APPO Ministerial Council at its last meeting in December 2021. Given the critical importance of the recommendations of the study, the Ministerial Council approved that it be presented to the Summit of Heads of State of APPO member countries scheduled sometime this year. Before I conclude, I would like to make one observation regarding the number and quality of summits, conferences, seminars, exhibitions on oil and gas held every year in our member countries, each claiming to be the most prestigious energy event in the country or the continent. Having so many such conferences in one country when we are trying to encourage our people to join the industry in the past was good. But times have changed. The event organizers can confirm that the competition for sponsorship, delegates attendance, etc., is unwittingly affecting the quality of these events. It is time the industry thought of collaboration and cooperation to produce what can be truly national oil and gas events, while at the continental level, APPO provides the umbrella for some of the best continental energy event managers to organize a continental summit for oil and gas. We plan to do this on a rotational basis amongst our member countries. I would like to use this opportunity to once again appreciate the leadership role of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who started the Africa Local Content Roundtable, which it graciously conceded to APPO to organize as a continental event and to be held on a rotational basis. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention.